Welcome to Shorten Gears. The thing with the thing and the thing. Oh, I'm never doing that again. We're back here with the Project Prelude, and I'm very, very close to the finish line with this car. In the last episode, we got this thing mechanically sorted by tearing apart the intake plenum and replacing all of the coolant lines and a clogged fast idle valve. This has all been ruined by block sealer, which you should never, ever, ever, ever put in your car. We also did some suspension work. Some of it became a bit of a parts cannon, where I bought some parts that ended up not actually solving the problem. However, there were some secondary benefits that made it all worth it. Like the shocks, now the car rides great, it sits great, the stance is correct, and also the steering rack. The steering rack had quite a bit of a slop in the rack, and that was because the system had been run dry for several years. But the actual problem ended up being, well, me. I missed a bushing when I was putting together the radius rod. So one of the radius rod bushings was not there. So luckily there was a Prelude in a nearby junkyard, and that made pulling the bushing that I needed very easy and effectively free. Now that all that work is done, we took it out for a test drive, and then I dropped it off at the shop for an alignment and smog. And the alignment was done. This car tracks really great. It's straight as an arrow, and it is really a joy to drive. However, unfortunately, it failed smog. So there were two problems when it failed smog. One, obviously the numbers failed. But two, there was a lot of smoke coming out of the tailpipe, and that convinced the smog tech that the rings were fried. I don't believe it. I don't buy that for a second. I don't think the rings are fried at all. I think what happened here is this car, because it sat and idled for 14 years, has a lot of buildup in the exhaust, and I just haven't been able to blow that out yet. So I could just go take this out for a good long drive, but given the fact that it has an expired registration, while I do have a moving permit, I just still don't feel comfortable doing it. This also gives us an opportunity to take a little bit of a scientific approach to this. We have a problem, and I want to diagnose this problem before I spend any money on it. Now, I could also go just buy a catalytic converter. Those are $800. I don't want to do that. I think we can fix this problem for free. So in order to properly diagnose this, I want to make sure that my hypothesis is correct. Aside from that, it also gives us the opportunity to prove that the smoke is not coming from this car's engine. See, once I swap the systems, I have my other Prelude's exhaust on this car. We can do a cold start on it, and we can know if it starts billowing smoke for half an hour, just like it did with this exhaust. So let's get over to the other. By the way, this also gives us an opportunity to do something really, really stupid, which is remove the exhaust from a car and drive it around, because I can't work on both of these cars at the same time. So that's going to be really fun. Let's get into the garage and get to work. So we're in here with the Prelude that I've owned for 25 years. I have a long history with this car, and I know that it passes smog, and it actually passes smog with some pretty incredible numbers. So in my opinion, there's no reason to go spending the money just yet. I want to confirm my hypothesis. We're going to take off this entire exhaust system from the cat back all the way to the exhaust tip, because I don't want anything in the system to affect the numbers that I blow. I'm going to take all of that off, we're going to set it aside, we're going to pull this car out and the other one back in. So as with all experiments, you have to be willing to change your position given a new set of data. The first new set of data that I gained underneath this car was, oh my God, this is such a pain in the ass. Everything is 50 times more difficult than it needs to be. That's just the nature of working on a creeper. It's awful. The next realization I made was that all of my exhaust bushings are brand new, which makes my exhaust very difficult to move. So I decided not to take out the entire exhaust system. I decided to just unbolt the catalytic converter. We're going to put this in the other car. We're just going to swap it and see if that clears up the problem. I'm willing to bet that there's deposits in the other car's catalytic converter. So once we confirm that, we can clean up the EGR, throw a couple of things of heat in the gas tank, and get ready to smog it. If I need to buy a new catalytic converter, I'm buying a new catalytic converter for this car, because catalytic converters in California are $800. I'm not going to spend $800 on a project car. I'll gladly spend $800 on the car that I'm keeping forever, though. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this Prelude on the ground. We're going to pull it out and pull the other one in and do the same thing to a different car. God damn it. What am I doing? I feel so silly. Here we go. So I have the catalytic converter off of the project car, and I've got my light down there, as you can see, and it is sitting on the light. And the idea is that you're supposed to be able to look through the cat and see light. And that gives you an idea of any contaminants that might be in the system. It's a little hard to see on camera, but you can see light through it, most definitely. And there's, you know, maybe a couple of contaminants, which is normal. So let's go ahead and put the factory original catalytic converter from the project car on the light, and nothing. You see nothing. It is completely blocked out. If I take this car to Smog, I want to make sure it passes, so I'm going to get this catalytic converter on it, and that will make sure that this car passes. We're going to take advantage of this car being on jack stands. It makes it a whole lot easier to work on. We are going to remove the EGR, which is right here underneath this tube, and the speedo cable that I had so much trouble with. It is only held on by 2 bolts. There's a vacuum line here. There's an electrical connector somewhere, and then it just lifts right out. And then we should be able to take a look at the valve and see if it's clogged with carbon. The Honda Prelude is a case study of engineers fucking mechanics. You see, the nuts that hold the EGR on are pointed straight up, but can you get a socket on them? No. No, you cannot. You can kind of get a bolt on the top one, barely, but on the bottom bolt, no, not at all. It's blocked by the body of the EGR itself. That is so stupid, because that means you have to tear out that, and the distributor, and you have to move all of this shit over in order to get a wrench on from the side. So that's actually not that bad. I don't think I even need to do anything, but I'm still going to spray it down with carb cleaner. Well, that wasn't that bad. It was way worse than it should have been, but I managed to reach the other nut that was holding the EGR on by removing the distributor. The only unfortunate thing is now I have to reset the timing, which sucks, because my contractor is here today, and I can't be in his way. Now this is back together, let's test the catalytic converter, and we're going to make sure that this car doesn't blow a bunch of smoke. And while this car is warming up, we're going to bring the other car back in the garage so we can put this car's catalytic converter in it. It's not ideal, but I need to be out of this garage so that the electrician can get to work tomorrow. Oh, that sounds horrible. Well, I left the car running while I put this car up on jack stands. Let's just go take a look at it real quick. And there is no smoke at all. So that really is a strong indicator that the catalytic converter is the source of the smoke that this car was experiencing. And it's warmed up, it's idling really nice. EGR is cleaned out, and just to be sure, before we take it to Smog, we're gonna put 2 bottles of heat in the tank, and then we'll send it to Smog. But we're gonna drive it around this time. We're gonna drive it like 50 miles before we get smogged. Well, I checked the timing. It was at about 8 degrees, so I had to adjust it up to 15, and now we are ready to go. Everything looks really, really good. I think everything works now. We're up to temperature. Let's go for a drive and then go to the shop again. I've been driving this car for a while now. It drives exactly like my Prelude did 20 years ago, which is, it's quiet, the suspension's a little floaty, but that's how it is with these cars. It drives like a stock car, and the shifter is really freaking long. You know, there's a lot of things that really annoy me about this car, but there's a lot of things that delight me about this car, like how fast the window motors work. I mean, it just goes up and down, and I'm not going to open it because the wind buffeting is going to kill the audio, but little things like that work so well that it's just like, wow, this car is a delight to be in sometimes. So we're on the way back to the shop. I did call them. They will be ready for me when I get there. And I gotta be honest with you guys, sometimes I forget which car I'm driving. It really does feel like the car that I had 25 years ago, 24 years ago. Looks exactly like the car that I had. I mean, even down to the mileage. This is such a trip through time for me. It really brings back all the memories of the car that I had. I mean, and which is funny because I still have that car. So I snap back to reality and go, wait a minute, this is not the same car, and I miss the car that I had. I actually am looking forward to driving my other Prelude again because you know, despite all of its flaws, it is the car that has been with me this whole time. It is the car that I made it to be, for better or for worse, and I am currently in the process of making that better. I'm gonna quit wasting your time. I'll check in with you after this car is done at the Smog shop. I passed Smog. So up top we have the numbers that I blew before, and below we have the numbers that we just blew with our newish catalytic converter. What a relief. So I'm actually sitting here in the AAA lot. I got the new registration, and strangely enough, it was yellow. So I guess that's why I didn't have any trouble with the law while I was driving this around. It looked like a 2025 sticker. But this is a very, very cool feeling. I got this old car back on the road, fixed up, and it is legal to drive. It blows really great numbers, and this is a really great car to drive on top of all that. So we do have some issues with my other Prelude, namely it has a bad catalytic converter on it, and that is illegal, and I don't do illegal stuff. So while it is out of commission, we don't want to drive it illegally with a bad catalytic converter. We're going to do some other work while we wait on this new part to arrive. We're going to check in on that in another video, but for this video, we're calling this done. We are calling this car mechanically sorted. We still do have the air conditioner to work on. We're going to address that another time. We also have some little buttoning up on the interior, and the next major project for this car is going to be paint, which that will probably be off camera because that's going to involve sending it to another shop. So the last thing we have to do here is go for a drive and record an outro. Let's go. Did I say this car was mechanically sorted? Yeah, that was a mistake. I should never have said that. I'm driving it, and I was on a big hill, and I just noticed the brake master cylinders going out because my foot slowly went down to the floor. That's okay. It's not a big deal to fix. We're gonna fix it. So this is one of those times where you really need to have a good quality flare nut wrench. I got this one from Snap-on. Not an advertisement for Snap-on, but when you need something like this and you absolutely cannot afford to strip out a flare nut, this is a good go-to. Well, for some reason, I thought you needed to disconnect the brake pedal. I was wrong, but I am glad that I came down here because look at the clutch master cylinder. That is a leak. That's going to continue to leak inside the car. That's going to get worse. So I guess I am doing a clutch master cylinder. And that probably means I'm doing a clutch slave cylinder. God damn it. As you can see, I've already removed the brake master cylinder. You can see down there where the corrosion is that that's where it was starting to leak. I'm going to hit that with the wire wheel, sand that down a little bit, sand that down a little bit, and give it a squirt of primer or something just to protect it from getting worse. You can't really see it, but I kind of also at the same time want to make it look as good as I can because it's already open. And you know what? That would have made real easy access to that steering rack. But, you know, hindsight. Hindsight. Okay, now that I have this thing back on, it's time to refill it with brake fluid. I've also got to snap these stupid things back in. But, oops, that there, and then that there. And now we can fill this with brake fluid. I'm going to use my bleeder kit initially to pull fluid through every single one of these calipers because I want to get all of that nasty old brake fluid out of there. And then once I'm done using the vacuum bleeder, then I'll have my wife come out and we'll do it the old-fashioned way with the press and hold. But first, I want to get all of this fluid pulled through. And with that, I don't need any help. Oh, with some help from my wife, we got the brakes bled. But considering our discovery with the clutch, really don't feel comfortable taking this out on a test drive. I just, it's not that I'm afraid of what will happen to the clutch. It's that the clutch cylinder is going to leak on the inside of the car. And the inside of this car is really, really nice. And I don't want to risk messing that up. So I guess we got to live our best Prelude lifestyle, which is, of course, if you own a Prelude, you know what I'm going to say. It means I'm going to be waiting on parts. So back out to the wasteland with this Prelude and back into the garage with this broken Prelude. So I went ahead and got both a master and slave cylinder because typically when one goes bad, the other one is not far behind. I got the same brand that I got with my clutch. This is the Luck. I have a Luck clutch in my Jeep. I wanted to put one in the Miata, and I have one in this car. And I have great experiences. I really, really like the clutch. So I went ahead and got these hydraulic parts as well. Since it was available, I may as well. So which one is which? We're going to start with the master, and then we'll do the slave. Can we start calling them primary and secondary cylinders? I mean, it feels weird using that terminology. I know that's actually what the car industry calls them, but still, come on. It's 2024. So, so here's the cylinder that we put up there, the master cylinder. There is a shackle on the clutch pedal. Is it the clutch pedal? It's actually not the clutch pedal. There's a little arm that this attached to that goes across and over to the clutch pedal. But still, you gotta undo the shackle inside the car, and then you can pop out the two bolts from inside the car, and then the thing comes out. But before we do that, we're gonna pull out all of the fluid from this line because we have to pull it from both cylinders since we're changing both cylinders. I got the new front secondary cylinder on there, and I forgot to tighten down the O2 sensor bracket. So I'm going to tighten down that O2 sensor bracket, and then we'll go out on a test drive. I had my wife come out to help me bleed the clutch. Used the vacuum bleeder at first to pull out everything that I could, and then she helped with the rest of the way. Apparently it feels functional, but we'll see what happens when we drive it. We might have to bleed it again, but I'm hoping I don't have to. Well, now that the clutch hydraulics are repaired, let's go take this thing out on a quick test drive. I gotta make a short run to the hardware store. It's just a couple blocks away, and this is a perfect opportunity to drive this car around just a little bit. I forget just how insane this seat is. And the seat belt, it's really annoying. Okay. The window did decide to work. So the window, I might open up this door panel again and take another crack at this window if it doesn't start behaving itself consistently. But for now, it seems to be okay. I might have to bleed this clutch again. It's quite grabby. That might just be the way it is, but I want to be sure, because as soon as I let off, it starts grabbing. I mean, within an inch, within a half inch. We got a car coming. Got another car coming. And so this car is running really nicely now. Like I said, I want to do the air conditioning just because I really want to make this as good of a car as I can. And at the very least, I know that I need to do the seals. I may need to rebuild the pump, but definitely need to do the seals since the system is dry. And I figure I'll do all the seals and then pull vacuum and see if it holds vacuum. If it doesn't hold vacuum, then I definitely need to rebuild the pump. If it does hold vacuum, then I'm gonna have to pull the pump anyway and refill it with PAG oil. But you know, I'm one way or another, I want to get this AC working, even if it involves rebuilding the pump. Much as I don't want to spend more money on this car, it's gonna be worth it. This is such a nice experience. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I'm really happy that I was able to get this car on the road, running and driving really nicely and legally. We're on the home stretch here. This car's gonna be ready for sale pretty soon. There's just obviously some work left to do. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you've thrown an idle control valve or two in the trash, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.